Callan Ward was not a soldier. He was a technician, someone who fixed broken things. He liked quiet jobs, tools in his hand, and machines that didn't argue. But that changed when the distress signal came from Moon X-47, a mining base under attack. No one else was close enough. The soldiers were far. The diplomats were slow. So, Callan took his small repair shuttle and flew in alone. He didn't expect to find anyone alive. But in the dark tunnels, he found a group of alien children hiding behind a broken door, crying in fear. He didn't think. He acted. He carried them one by one to his ship, even while the ceiling was falling and alarms were screaming. He got them all out, just in time, before the mining base exploded behind him. The story went viral across the galaxy. A human, not even trained for combat, had saved the children of a powerful alien noble family. Everyone praised his bravery. Callan hated attention, but the Galactic Council called him a hero. And heroes, they said, **** deserve ****. Weeks later, he stood on a space station, wearing his usual work jacket, scratching his head. A pet? He asked the officer. That's really not necessary. The officer smiled. It is tradition. You saved royal children. You deserve something to care for, something rare, something living. Callan thought maybe they'd bring him a small alien creature, maybe a glowing squirrel or a singing lizard, something weird but cute. But then the ship landed. And what stepped out made his mouth go dry. She was tall, elegant, and silent. Her skin was soft blue with a hint of violet, and her hair looked like silver silk. She wore a strange dress, almost royal, and her eyes were deep like oceans under starlight. But what caught Callan most was her face, beautiful, calm, and unreadable. She stepped forward, stopped in front of him, and slowly bowed. Her voice was gentle, but clear. "I am yours now." Callan blinked. "Wait, what?" "She is a living gift," the officer explained, "from the House of Karel. Her name is Cyril ****. She belongs to you." Callan took a step back, confused and embarrassed. No, that can't be right. She's a person. She offered herself. This is their way," the officer replied. "She has chosen to honor you. It is not slavery. It is sacred." Cyril looked up, meeting his eyes. There was no fear, no shame, only calm acceptance. And something else, something strange. Interest. Callan swallowed. He was just a technician. He fixed broken wires and engines. He wasn't ready for any of this. Especially not **** or ****. Let me know if you want **** part 2 **** next, or need this one adjusted. Callan couldn't sleep. The station lights were dim, and the silence was peaceful, but his mind was racing. In the next room, the alien girl, Cyril, was sitting quietly. She hadn't spoken much since her arrival. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't complain. She just sat near the window, looking out at the stars. Callan paced around his small living room. "This has to be some kind of misunderstanding," he muttered to himself. "You don't just give people away." He grabbed his communicator and called the diplomatic office. "Hi, yes, this is Callan Ward. I think there's a problem with my reward. You gave me a person." The voice on the other side calmly replied, "She is not property. She's a representative of her people. She chose this. It's an honor." "I don't want an honor," Callan replied. "I just saved some kids I didn't ask for her ****. The diplomat paused. "Return her if you wish, but it may insult her people." Callan sighed and ended the call. His head was hurting. He walked into the guest room where Cyril was still sitting. She looked up slowly. "Is something wrong?" she asked softly. Callan rubbed the back of his neck. Look, Cyril, are you okay with this? With staying here?" She tilted her head slightly. I gave my word. But you don't know me. I'm not a prince or a hero. I fix broken ships. I eat cold noodles for dinner. I live alone because people say I talk too much. Why would you offer yourself to someone like me? Cyril stood up slowly, her movement graceful like flowing water. Because I watched you risk your life for children that were not your own. You did not run. You did not think of yourself. That is rare. Callan opened his mouth to argue but stopped. He didn't know what to say. I do not serve you like a slave, she continued. I choose to stay. In my culture, this is a bond, a life debt. We honor it with presence, protection, and care. Callan sat down across from her. But what do you want? Cyril blinked as if surprised by the question. She looked at the stars again. I do not know yet. I have only just begun to learn what I want. They sat in silence for a while. The stars moved slowly outside the window. Finally, Callan stood up. Okay, you can stay, for now. But not as some kind of servant. You're a guest. Got it? Cyril nodded once. Guest, she repeated. Callan tried to smile, even though his chest still felt tight. All right then, you hungry? I have noodles. She gave the smallest smile he had seen yet. I would like to try your noodles. And just like that, something shifted between them. Something small, but real. Let me know if you want part 3 next. Days passed. Callan expected Cyril to get bored or asked to go back to her people. But she didn't. Instead, she stayed. She followed a quiet routine, waking early, cleaning up without being asked, and sometimes sitting near Callan while he worked on small engine parts. She watched everything he did like she was studying him. Not in a strange way, but like she truly wanted to understand. Callan found it hard to focus. Her calm presence made the small apartment feel different, warmer somehow. One evening, he finally asked, Aren't you tired of being here? Don't you want to return to your own world? Cyril looked up from the book she was reading, a translated copy of *Humans and the Galaxy*. I have no world to return to, she said softly. Callan paused. What do you mean? My planet, Karen, it is no more. The war destroyed most of it. My people live in scattered colonies now, or in hiding. The House of Karel sent me away before the last battle. Callan felt a chill. He hadn't known that. Cyril closed the book and placed it neatly on the table. I am one of the last of my kind. He sat beside her, unsure what to say. I'm sorry. I didn't know. She gave a small nod. It is not your fault. He rubbed his hands together. Still, I can't stop thinking this whole reward thing isn't right. I'm not used to people being loyal to me. Cyril tilted her head. Loyalty is not forced. I chose it. But why? He asked, honestly. You're smart. You're graceful. You could do anything. Go anywhere. Why stay here with a human who barely knows how to talk to people? Her eyes softened. Because you are kind. You speak honestly. You saved lives when others would have waited for orders. I respect that. Callan looked away, feeling his face grow warm. Compliments made him uncomfortable, especially from someone like her. He changed the subject. You keep waking up early. You don't have to do all the cleaning, you know. Cyril gave a small smile. It brings order to my thoughts. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. But you're not my maid, okay? I know. Later that night, he peeked into the guest room. Cyril was already asleep on the floor mat, wrapped in the soft blanket he'd given her. Her breathing was slow and peaceful. Callan watched her for a moment. She didn't look like someone who was pretending. She didn't act like a prisoner. And most of all, she didn't seem afraid. In fact, she looked at home. And that made Callan feel something new. Not fear, not confusion. It was something warm, something he hadn't felt in years. Connection. Let me know when you're ready for Part 4 Callan thought life was finally settling down. He worked during the day and spent his evenings fixing small devices or making strange meals for Surreal, who seemed to enjoy learning about human food. She even laughed once when he dropped noodles on the floor. But peace didn't last long. One morning, the station alarm buzzed, not the usual maintenance alert, but a security warning. Callan stepped out of his quarters to see two tall aliens in black armor waiting outside his door. Behind them stood a female diplomat with hard eyes and gold-colored skin. Surreal of House Corel. The woman announced, "You are requested for questioning by the Interplanetary Political Council." Callan stepped in front of them. "Wait, what is this about?" The woman looked him over. "This matter does not concern you, human." Cyril came forward slowly, her expression calm, but her eyes serious. "I will speak, but only if he stays." The guards hesitated, but the diplomat finally nodded. "Very well." They were taken to a private room on the upper deck. A holoscreen displayed Cyril's full identity. Her name, bloodline, and a long list of unknown alien titles. "She is not a common citizen," the diplomat said. "She is a royal survivor and a political figure. Her disappearance was seen by some as an escape from duty." Callan's eyes widened. "You think she ran away?" "No," Cyril said clearly. "I was sent away by the elders to protect our line. I did not flee. I obeyed." The diplomat narrowed her eyes. "Then why have you bonded with a human?" Callan sat up straighter. "Bonded? Hold on. We're not." "I chose him," Cyril interrupted, her voice strong. "I saw his courage, his heart. I followed the old way of my people. The life-debt bond is sacred." The room went quiet. The guards shifted uncomfortably. The diplomat finally spoke. "Whether sacred or not, this bond has created tension. Other royal houses are asking questions. Some fear you may be hiding a political weapon." Callan frowned. "She's not a weapon. She's a person." "That is not how politics see it," the woman replied coldly. They were released under watch. But from that day forward, Callan noticed the difference. Eyes followed them in the halls. Conversations stopped when they entered the room. Even old friends looked unsure. Back in their quarters, Callan dropped heavily onto the couch. "Guess you're more important than I thought." Cyril sat beside him, folding her hands calmly. "Importance is a matter of perspective. To me, your kindness is more valuable than any crown." He looked at her, half smiling. "Yeah. Then maybe I should start calling you Princess." She raised one eyebrow. "Only if you wish to be teased endlessly." They both laughed softly. But deep down, Callan knew something had changed. And whatever came next, he wouldn't let her face it alone. The station's air felt heavier now. People still smiled at Callan, but it was not the same. There was always something behind their eyes: curiosity, fear, or doubt. Some even looked at Cyril like she was a danger. Callan tried to ignore it, but it bothered him. One night, as he walked back from a repair job, he stopped near the docking bay. The hallway lights flickered, and he heard footsteps behind him. Too fast, too heavy. He turned. 3 rough-looking aliens stood there. They weren't part of the station crew. "You're the human who took the Corel girl, right?" one said, stepping forward. "She doesn't belong to you." Callan frowned. "She's not a thing. She made her own choice." The alien growled. "That girl is rare, valuable. You're just lucky." But luck runs out. Before Callan could speak again, the alien swung a metal rod at him. Pain exploded in his shoulder, and he fell to the ground. The second alien raised a weapon, but before he could fire, a blur moved between them. It was Surreal. She moved fast, faster than any human could follow. With a smooth motion, she kicked the weapon from the alien's hand, flipped over him, and knocked the first attacker down with a strike to the neck. The third one tried to run, but she grabbed him by the collar and slammed him into the wall. Within seconds, they were all on the ground. Callan stared in shock, holding his injured arm. What was that? Cyril didn't answer at first. She looked down at her hands, breathing slowly, then turned to him. You are hurt. I'll be fine, he said, wincing. But you fought like a trained soldier. Cyril knelt beside him and gently helped him up. I was trained. Every noble child in my house was taught defense from a young age, especially after the war began. He sat on a bench, still stunned. Why didn't you tell me? She looked at him, her voice low. Because I did not want you to see me as a weapon. Too many already do. Callan touched his sore shoulder and gave a weak smile. I don't see you like that. Cyril nodded. I know. They walked back to their quarters in silence. When they reached the door, Cyril paused. I have many skills, she said softly. But this quiet life, it is new to me. I am still learning how to live in peace. Callan looked at her with new respect. You saved me today. Again. She looked into his eyes. And I will keep doing it, as long as I stay by your side. He nodded, heart pounding. There was more to her than beauty or mystery. She was powerful, loyal, and deeply alone. And now so was he. But maybe together, they didn't have to be. After the attack, Callan and Cyril stayed inside more. He didn't say it, but she knew he was worried. For her and himself. The guards claimed they caught the attackers, but Callan didn't trust that. Something was changing on the station. One night, the lights flickered again. A power fault in the lower decks. Callan, being the best technician around, got the call. Cyril followed without asking. He didn't stop her this time. The lower level was quiet, cold, and dark. As Callan worked on the broken panel, he said, You're really not afraid of anything, are you? Cyril stood nearby, watching the shadows. I was trained not to fear, but that doesn't mean I feel nothing. Callan looked up from his tools. Then what do you feel now? She turned to him, eyes thoughtful, confused, curious, at peace when I am with you. Callan blinked, surprised by her honesty. That's nice to hear. He smiled, but it faded when the power sparked again, forcing him to step back. The hallway went completely dark for a moment. Hang on, he said, reaching into his tool bag for a light. Suddenly, Cyril was beside him. Her hand gently touched his shoulder. You are not alone in this darkness, she whispered. Her words felt strange, like they meant more than just the room they were in. The emergency lights came on, red and dim. They continued down the hallway toward the main circuit room. As they walked, Callan asked, Why did you really choose to stay with me, Cyril? You've seen how I live. It's not special. She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, she said, When I saw the footage of the rescue, you didn't just save those children. You risked everything without thinking of gain. I saw someone real, not trying to impress, not pretending to be perfect. Callan stopped walking. Her words struck him. I've seen many leaders, she continued, but none with your heart. They stood there, in the middle of a cold corridor. Around them, machines buzzed and wires hummed, but the space between them was still. Cyril stepped closer. In my culture, bonding is not just tradition, it is connection. Trust. We sometimes link minds to understand each other better. Callan's heart skipped. You want to do that? With me? She nodded. Only if you agree. He hesitated. What would that mean? It means I would feel your thoughts, and you would feel mine. Only a little. Only what you allow. Callan took a deep breath. Okay. I trust you. She placed 2 fingers gently on his temple. He closed his eyes. A warm sensation filled his mind. He saw flickers of her memories. Battlefields, stars, fear, silence, and then him, smiling, working, laughing nervously. And in return, she felt his loneliness, his hope, and how deeply he wanted to protect her. The connection faded. They looked at each other, closer now, even without a word. Something had changed between them, and neither wanted it to end. The next morning started quietly, almost peaceful. Callan was fixing a water pipe near the loading docks while Cyril waited nearby, reading another human book. Everything felt normal, until the explosion shook the floor. Before Callan could react, smoke filled the air and masked figures stormed in. Stun guns fired. He tried to reach for Cyril, but something hit him in the back. His world turned dark. When he woke up, he was in a cold metal room. His hands were tied behind a chair, and the air smelled of oil and rust. "Cyril," he called out. No answer. A door opened. A tall alien with sharp features entered, wearing gold armor and a cruel smile. "The human wakes," he said, circling Callan. "You're not much to look at, but you made quite a mess in politics." Callan glared. "Where is she?" "She is safe, for now," the alien replied. "But not yours anymore. Do you know who she is? What she's worth?" "I know enough," Callan said. "And she's not for sale." The alien laughed. "Everything has a price, human. Especially her. Royal blood, rare genes, warrior training. Some would pay whole planets for her." Callan struggled against the ropes. "You're not going to get away with this." "Oh, I already have." Meanwhile, in another chamber, Cyril sat calmly. Her hands were chained, but her eyes were sharp and alert. A younger guard paced nervously. Why would a Corel noble bond with a human? Is it true? Cyril didn't answer. "You could have had power, safety, luxury. Why choose him?" She finally looked up. "Because he treats me like a person, not a trophy." The guard looked unsure, but left without saying more. Later that night, Callan managed to loosen the ropes. His hands were bruised, but his mind was focused. He remembered the layout of the station. The vents, the weak doors, the tools hidden in his belt. With quiet steps and careful moves, he escaped the room. As he moved through dark hallways, he avoided cameras and guards. His heart raced, not from fear, but from purpose. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained. But he was human. And when humans cared for someone, they didn't back down. Not ever. He reached the room where Cyril was kept and picked the lock using a metal pin. She looked up as he opened the door. "You came," she said quietly. "Of course I did," he whispered, stepping in. Before she could speak again, the alarm blared. Red lights flashed. "We have to move," Callan said, unlocking her chains. She stood up and looked at him, her eyes filled with something strong, not just gratitude, but emotion. They were running now, side by side through smoke and chaos. They were no longer rescuer and rescued. They were partners. And this time, they would fight together. The escape was far from easy. The station was alive with chaos. Blaring alarms, flashing red lights, and the sound of running feet. Callan and Cyril moved quickly through the hallways, their breaths quick and loud in the confined spaces. They had to get out of there. Fast. Callan could hear the guards shouting in the distance. They were closing in. His heart raced, but he didn't look back. He couldn't. The last thing he needed was to get distracted. Cyril, her eyes sharp and alert, led the way. Her strength and agility were apparent as she navigated the maze of corridors, while Callan struggled to keep up. His legs were still sore from the earlier attack, but he didn't show it. He couldn't. They'd reached the docking bay, but the ship that had brought them there was locked down tight. There was no way out. Callan looked at Cyril, frustration crossing his face. "We need to get out now." Cyril took a deep breath and glanced around. The sound of footsteps grew louder. "I'll hold them off," she said, her voice calm but firm. "No," Callan said quickly. "I'm not leaving without you." Cyril shook her head. "You're no good to me if you're captured. I'm a warrior. I can protect myself." Callan's chest tightened. "You don't have to protect me. We're in this together." For a moment, Suriel didn't respond. Then she nodded, just a little, before turning to the nearby control panel. "I'll hack the system," she said, fingers flying over the buttons with ease. Callan kept watch, his heart pounding in his chest. The door to the docking bay began to open, revealing the enemy guards approaching from the opposite hallway. "Just a little longer," Suriel murmured as she continued to work, her face set in concentration. Suddenly, the door opened completely, and Suriel turned back to Callan with a smile. "We're clear." Without a second thought, they ran to the ship. The guards were too close now, so close that Callan could see their weapons raised, ready to fire. But as they ran toward the ship, something in him clicked. He wasn't running from them anymore. He was running for Suriel. They reached the ship's hatch just as the first shot rang out. Callan shoved Suriel inside before diving in himself, just as more shots flew by them. The hatch slammed shut with a heavy thud, sealing them inside. For a moment, everything was silent. Callan and Suriel both leaned against the walls, catching their breath. Callan looked over at her, his voice low but full of sincerity. "I told you I wouldn't leave you." Suriel didn't speak at first, her chest rising and falling with each breath. Then she smiled. It wasn't a big smile, but it was real, and it meant everything. "I'm glad you didn't," she said quietly. As the ship powered up, Callan's eyes stayed on the control panel. He didn't know where they would go next, but it didn't matter. As long as they were together, nothing else could stop them. And for the first time since everything had begun, Callan felt like they might actually have a chance. The ship cruised through the stars, silent except for the hum of the engines. Callan sat in a pilot's seat, his eyes focused on the distant light of unknown systems ahead. The feeling of freedom was exhilarating, but his mind kept drifting back to Earth. His home, now a distant memory, barely a comfort in the vast, endless space. Beside him, Suriel sat in a chair, her eyes still scanning the ship's systems, as if she had always belonged there. She had adapted quickly, picking up human technology with ease. Every moment spent with her made Callan realize just how much he had underestimated her, how much he had underestimated them. "Where are we headed?" Suriel asked, breaking his train of thought. Her voice was soft, but there was an edge of uncertainty in it, something he hadn't heard before. Callan shrugged, glancing at the stars. "I don't know. Somewhere safe, I guess." Her brow furrowed. "Safe? What does that mean?" He thought about it for a moment. "I don't know. I guess I thought I'd have more answers by now. I didn't expect this. All of this." He waved a hand to indicate the space around them, the vast unknown. Suriel was quiet for a long time, her gaze fixed on the stars outside the window. "You want to go back, don't you?" Callan hesitated. "Sometimes. I think about it. About Earth. My home." He paused, watching her closely. "But I don't think it's the same anymore." She nodded slowly, understanding. "It changes when you leave. Even your memories change. They fade or twist in ways you don't expect." Callan smiled softly. "Yeah, I guess that's true." He had always been alone on Earth, living a quiet life, fixing machines, staying out of trouble. But with Suriel, he felt something different. A connection. It wasn't just the thrill of saving her, or her strength. It was something deeper, something he hadn't known he was missing. "We're not the same either, are we?" Callan asked. "You and me. I don't know. Partners, I guess." She met his gaze, and for the first time, her eyes softened in a way he hadn't seen before. "Not just partners," she said quietly. "We're more than that now." The words hung in the air between them. Callan turned back to the controls, suddenly unsure of what to say next. The truth was, he had no idea what they were anymore. They had been thrown together by chance, and now they were on the run, their lives completely entangled. There was no going back. Suriel shifted in her seat, her voice steady. "I don't need to go back. My people are gone. My world is gone. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not with you. Callan's chest tightened at her words, but he forced himself to focus on the ship's path. We'll figure it out, he said. Together. A long silence passed, but this time, it wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. And in the quiet hum of the ship, Callan realized something that had been growing between them for a long time. They weren't just running anymore. They were building something together. Where they went next, it didn't matter. They had each other. And that was enough. The ship flew silently through the stars, heading toward an unknown future. Callan sat at the controls, lost in thought. The weight of the past few weeks pressed on him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were finally free. Free from the politics, the dangers, and the expectations of others. Beside him, Cyril sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes focused on the view outside the window. She looked so peaceful, but Callan knew there was more to her than just the calm surface. She had been through so much, lost so much, yet here she was, still standing, still strong. He glanced at her and asked softly, "Do you ever wish things were different? That we weren't running?" Cyril looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she shook her head slowly. "No, this is the path I chose. It was not forced upon me." Callan raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I thought." Cyril interrupted him, her voice calm but firm. "I wasn't given to you, Callan. I chose to stay. I chose you. And I will not regret it." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had always seen himself as the one who was helping her, the one who needed to protect her. But now, in that moment, he realized something. Cyril had chosen him, just like he had chosen her, in his own way. "You chose me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. "I have seen many beings, many people throughout my life, but none of them saw me as you do. None of them treated me with the same respect. You don't try to own me, Callan. You accept me as I am." His heart swelled at her words. "I didn't think of it like that," he said quietly. "But I guess I've chosen you too." Cyril smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Then we are both free." Callan turned back to the controls, his mind racing. They had both chosen each other, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And that was the most powerful thing he had ever known. The stars outside the ship seemed to glow brighter now. They were no longer running from something. They were moving forward, toward something new, something different, and something they could shape together. Callan reached over and touched Cyril's hand gently, a silent promise between them. "We don't have to figure everything out today," he said softly. "But whatever happens next, we'll face it together." She squeezed his hand in return, her eyes full of trust. "Together," she agreed. And as they drifted through the vast, endless space, the uncertainty of their future no longer seemed so frightening. The journey ahead would not be easy, but they had each other. And with that, they had everything they needed. In that moment, Callan understood. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were building a life, one that belonged to both of them, together. This concludes the story. Let me know if you'd like any revisions or a new outline for a different story.